Hello, welcome to this video. I'm going to do a video today all about unmasking, what it's meant for me, and what I've found to be the pros and cons, the advantages and disadvantages to this process of unmasking. So, unmasking is a process of basically letting down our defenses a bit. We create a persona through our egos as we're developing of what we show to the world. Okay, we learn at some point as children that being ourselves is not safe. We might interpret events as either being dangerous to be ourselves or that we'll be rejected or not accepted, and we start to kind of try and fit in. So we create this kind of false identity, often by mimicking other people, building up the traits, the characteristics that get a positive response from people, and then pushing away or hiding or repressing all the things about us that get a negative response or that we think make us unacceptable. So what we end up doing is like playing a role. I think of like an actor playing a role, or like the word masking. We develop a mask, we hide who we are, and we show people this mask, this other thing. And that can work for a while as a defense mechanism, because if we do get rejected or if something happens, it's not us being rejected, then it's the mask, right? But it just seems to me that as we get a bit older, the mask kind of starts to get exhausting. And we start to lose intimacy in our relationships because people are falling in love with a role. People are falling in love with this mask, this persona, this character we're playing. And we start to feel like maybe people don't know us, who we are. And I don't know, it just seems to be a bit of a pattern that once you get to a certain kind of age, the mask just really starts to feel more like a prison than a defense mechanism. And we go through this process of having to really let go of the mask. And it's not as easy as what it seems. A lot of what we do with Love School is all about this, because that mask can affect all sorts of areas in our lives. We're struggling internally with our health and well-being. Our mind, our body system is struggling with just the pressure of keeping up this mask, living within those ego confines of and literally like our inner child is fearing for its life, you know what I mean? Fearing that it's not going to get what it needs to survive. And because we're living in that role, then that affects like the environments we go in, our relationships. So when we decide to unmask, be more of ourselves, or even for us to figure out who we are for ourselves, like we might not even know, we become identified with this mask, this persona, and then we get to think, well, like, is that even me? Like, do I even like any of these places I go to, or any of these people even? Like, you start questioning more, like all those little things that didn't go unsaid or whatever. I don't know, it just seems to like veer you off, and we get presented with a choice of either figure out who we are and present that to the world, or carry on with the mask. And it seems to me when we carry on with the mask, it gets more and more exhausting, causes bigger and bigger problems, or at least it did in my life anyway. So I've been through a process of unmasking. Some people it can take longer than others, and I suppose it depends kind of why we're masking. Mine was rooted in kind of trauma, a lot of trauma, and led to a lot of trauma. So I had a lot to unpack there, with physical conditions, and certainly like the way my mind had processed a lot of events or had learned to cope with things. There was a lot entangled in for me. Some people, it might not be as difficult. Some people maybe just take it off, be themselves, come what may, and it's easy peasy. I guess if you're watching these videos with Love School, perhaps it's not as easy peasy. Or maybe watching this video is going to help you see it's easy peasy. It's up to you. So all I'm going to do for this video, now I've just explained a little bit about what the mask is and what unmasking is, just, I kind of made a bit of a list. I really started reflecting on all the ways that what was involved in my unmasking, and then kind of broke down literally like the benefits and the um, downsides of it, pros and cons. And I just thought, for somebody who's obviously hearing this word a lot about unmasking, or is in that phase of like, well, what does it all mean, or what might be involved? Just thought this might be a helpful video. And if it is, there's other content here on YouTube or over on Love School that supports that process of unmasking, and potentially, depending how deep it goes for you might depend on how you take on the journey. What I'm sharing here is a reflection that is part of life design. And shadow work. So I talk a lot about shadow work and life design. So shadow work is kind of going into all the underlying reasons why we mask. And then life design is looking at, well, how do I recreate a life that's authentic and be a bit, I don't know, considered about that, and maybe it's even strategic about that. And that's what life design is. So this was just a process that I felt drawn to do. I just wanted to, like I say, reflect on it, and I thought it might be worth sharing. So if you're interested in all of that stuff, like I say, follow us, subscribe, like all of that, and you'll get our content. So I will just run through the list, and I may always give a little bit more information. I'll try not to go off on one too much on any of the things, because it is actually quite a long list, which was quite eye-opening when I did this. The first thing I realized that I had to unmask, which actually was, maybe it's not what I expected when I first started the process, was actually my sentimentality. Can't say that word properly. I'm a very sentimental person, and I for whatever reason just always felt like I had to hide that. I didn't say the really deep or kind things or considerate things that I wanted to say to people, or I wanted to do for people, or whatever it might be. So one of the things I've had to learn to unmask was my sentimentality, and how deeply I feel about things, and that I do have this desire to honor things, to sometimes be a bit, whatever it might be, romantic if it's a partner, or just a bit gooey and smushy with people. And I do that now. Another one was my spirituality. My spirituality was very much like a hidden thing, and I just kind of decided, I mean, obviously spirituality can be quite a personal thing anyway, but I just decided to share more about it publicly as part of my unmasking. It was quite funny when I reflect, because I remember asking my friend who talked about spiritual stuff online, like shamanistic stuff, when I said to her, I says, I feel like I'm coming out. How did you come out about being a spiritual person? And she laughed, because she'd done it so long ago when she was young. And she was like, I don't know, I just kind of started talking about it. But it obviously wasn't part of her mask for, like I say, a different thing. But for me, my spirituality was something that I felt I had to hide. My, psychic abilities, the fact I could channel, be a medium, the fact that I could see shadow, all these different things. My connection to God, the fact that I pursued this, outside of religion and stuff, or sometimes inside religion. But anyway, I felt like I had to hide my spirituality, and that was part of unmasking. My anger, for sure, my frustration, my rage, that I think is quite a common one for a lot of us. Like when you're young, a lot of families don't tolerate anger. And rather than teaching us how to process it in healthy ways, we just kind of taught we've got to suppress it. And there was obviously, like, I had a lot of trauma. There was a lot of anger there, and I'm still learning healthy ways to process my anger sometimes. But actually being able to express it to people or around people, even to myself, was part of unmasking. And linked with that is just generally my emotional expression. And that, funny enough, so some of that was even like my love and care for people, my joy, my excitement. I was kind of always told to tone it down. Still am. Now, as a 40-year-old woman, people don't want you to be emotional, but you know what? Tough. I am an emotional person, and I feel emotions deeply, and I like to express them in lots of creative and different ways. And if I want to say or do something that expresses my emotions, I'm going to do it. And that was part of unmasking, and just me getting in touch with my emotional side. My sexuality, again, I don't know if this is like just linked with women, but because I had sexual based trauma and things, my sexuality at times was something I kept quite hidden, or only displayed certain bits of. Like I say, chose which parts of my sexuality I would share, or even sometimes like overshare, and thinking that was as part of my mask that I had to share certain side of my sexuality, just having appropriate boundaries, I guess, around that. But as I've unmasked because I think our sexuality is linked with our authenticity and our creative expression and and emotions. So as all that has come up, my sexuality has changed, evolved, and I now kind of have a better idea of how to express that in what feels like more authentic ways. My disagreement. I'm not sure if I've always, at times, different times in my life, I've been kind of called opinionated, argumentative. So at different times in my life, I've obviously gone through back and forth of a process of masking or unmasking that. Learning how to communicate better has been a big one to make that a bit easier for me. So, because I definitely would like kind of shrink away in shame sometimes and hide that behind a mask for certain periods. My disagreement with people or following on being able to express my dissatisfaction in healthy ways and that sort of thing. My vibrancy and creativity. I've always had a creative life, but for some reason, in many situations, I have felt I had to keep that hidden, especially when I came back up north. When I lived in London and I was in the creative industry, and when I went to uni, that was like a very open and expressive time for me. When I first was around other creatives, I was very open then, or learning to be a lot more open then. Up north where I live, it's generally not so much in the culture that you wear bright clothes or that you do arty stuff or whatever it might be. So I definitely did build a mask around my northern persona, if you like, and then peeling that off at times has been a process. My vast experiences, right? So, I mean, I talk about them at Love School. I have had just one of those lives. I don't know what that means. I say that sometimes. It's like I've just been through a lot. Like I just have. I've never settled. I never settled down. I've never had like a long-term partner or a long-term career. Few years at a time, maybe. And even within those, I did move around and things. I've traveled. Like I say, I've tried out different things work-wise, professionally, personally. I've experimented with different things. I've experienced some amazing things. And I've experienced some really traumatic things. And I know people from all over the world. And I just know a lot. I've experienced a lot. I've been through a lot. And okay, I don't know, maybe it's more than what people expect, or certainly a lot of people where I'm from again in my northern persona who haven't traveled or who have literally just had like did the whole this is what you should do thing. Pick a career and stick with that forever, pick a partner and stick with that forever, and that life is Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and the little routine. I've never had that. I did lots of things and experienced lots of things. So just kind of, like I say, part of the mask was kind of keeping this all hidden almost. And like I say, it was a trauma response in some ways, but just learning to talk about my vast experiences and share them and not have it mean anything about anything. It's just the reality. That's part of unmasking for me. Talked a little bit about this, my trauma and my trauma symptoms. That was a huge one for me. Like I definitely created a big mask around my trauma, especially around some of the sexual traumas when I was younger, and the coping habits or the symptoms of that, the addictions I developed to cope, the depression and anxiety that I had at times. I would hide that literally, like I would hide that from people. I couldn't talk about it. I had pretty serious blocks around it all. So yeah, unmasking was being able to like come out about my trauma and seek support and learn how to process it and talk about it. We don't always have to, like, obviously I'm quite open now, talk about stuff on the internet and that, but that's just me, my path. You don't have to do that. Like, as part of unmasking, you might want to, you might not want. But I suppose this is another thing. So I've always wanted to kind of, I don't know, I definitely don't want to be famous, but or anything like that. But I like expression. I like talking about stuff, and because I've had all these experiences and different things, like I like helping people, and I just kind of feel like it's been part of my purpose and my human design and all that is about me talking and feeling and talking, feeling and talking. I'm just a feeling talking machine. So that's why I do this sort of thing. Because I feel that's in my yeah, that's me aligning with my authenticity. So not everyone has to do this. Like if you're unmasking, you don't have to talk about all the stuff you're doing or anything like that. That's not necessarily part of it, unless you want to, unless you've always wanted to, unless you've had this drive, right? We think, oh, like it's funny to explain. So I often had this thing, right? I always wanted to write, and I never did. I had to mask my writing, right? Always felt like I wanted to write, and I always felt like I wanted to tell stories, tell my stories, and because I kind of, whatever, like I say, trauma, neurodiversity, whatever it is, I had problems with that. And I've had to overcome those, like learn communication skills, learn writing skills, learn different ways of creative writing, all of that. And like I say, that's just actually when I discovered it, part of my human design and all that. That was quite interesting. So that's literally what karma I've had to overcome. So that's why I do this sort of thing now. Obviously, quite a lot of unmasking, when we talk about unmasking, gets linked with neurodivergence. So pattern recognition, which is just the way my brain works. And literally, like I can just notice patterns and things and pointing them out. That's been something I've had to unmask. My disobedience. I used to have hidden that a lot. I'm a naughty girl. Not always a good girl. I can be very disobedient, and I've hidden disobedience for a long time, probably because I was shamed as a kid for not doing as I was told. But I'm Terri. I don't do what I'm told. I had to hide my intuition. Again, this has kind of got deep links with some of the stuff I said at the beginning, my spirituality, my emotional expression, my trauma, all linked with that. But a lot of that was repressing my intuitive responses. My intelligence and my critical thinking, like there's this weird thing up north, like especially when I don't know if it's just up north. When you're a kid at school, you're not supposed to be smart. So I kind of hid my smarts. Like I found school really, really easy. Other people were struggling a lot. I just breezed through because it was like the easiest thing. All you got to do is do what you think, the teacher just tells you a lot of shit. You remember it, splurge it out in an exam and you get good grades. Like it was just, I just found school so easy. And my critical thinking. So because I had pattern recognition brain and all that, I could literally just see what was going on. I ask a lot of questions. I have always asked a lot of questions. I mean, even just opening up to being curious and asking questions again is something I had to unmask because Terri questions used to get a lot of a bad response from people at times when I was younger. So definitely that was something I masked for a long time. I stopped asking questions and being curious and critically thinking for a while to fit in. And I don't do that now. So part of my unmasking was taking that off. And that kind of links as well with my shadow. So my shadow perception, my judgments of people, because I could see pattern recognition, because whether it's intuitive or just critical thinking and seeing things like behave certain things, other people, my hyper awareness, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I could see people's bullshit and I would suppress my intuition and not call it out. So unmasking has literally been at times like me calling people out of their shit, being honest about my judgments of people with myself and with others, at times where that's appropriate and guiding myself accordingly. And obviously like unmasking a lot is about facing your shadow self. I've done a lot of shadow work, facing my shadow, all these repressed traits and things. So yeah, just unmasking is a lot of that, just kind of accepting all these like things that I was going to say downsides to me there, but it's not even that, like my limitations and things like that, all the things that you push aside that you create the mask for is literally like just being a bit more comfortable showing them or being aware of them even. And part of that is my own vulnerabilities and my own limitations. Yeah, I do have a gooey soft center, but I also you know, maybe some of that, I don't know, harsher crust. Sorry, I just found that really funny. My intensity and my hyper focus, this definitely I suppose linked with neurodivergence, but I feel things intensely. I can be quite an intense person to be around. I have high energy, I'm creative, I can hyper focus on things and get things done like that other people just don't do. Like obviously I do a lot of stuff, and I used to definitely keep that hidden. My pain and my confusion kind of linked with some of the symptoms of my trauma, but just generally, like anytime I felt really confused, I tend to hide that. And my pain, which I suppressed for years and years and years, I definitely hid that. We weren't really allowed to be kind of sick or in pain much in in my family in the 90s wasn't really tolerated. So unmasking has definitely been part of that. One, allowing myself to feel and acknowledge and express my pain and confusion and be able to learn how to work through it and manage it is all kind of part of that. And now it's kind of it's part of who I am. My sense of justice, my depth, my commitment, how much I care about things. Again, I found as I've unmasked more and accepted more of that, it's not something I feel like I necessarily have to hide all the time. And funny enough, I possibly care a bit less now than I used to. I don't know if that's just a maturity thing. I don't know if that's part of the dynamic because it was so hidden. It felt like it was bubbling up or something like that. But I did often feel like I had to hide that. My boredom and my boredom of others and my intolerance. Again, maybe there's a neurodivergent thing. I don't know. I really don't like small talk, and I really don't like some people are so dull. It's not that I don't like them, right? Each to their own. And in some ways I'm like, I'm really quite dull now in my life. But you know what I mean? Like some people are just really boring and they just like it's not how I would want to live my life. And that's fine. It's kind of links with the judgment thing. Like I always feel like I have to justify it, like as in like it's fine. Like I'm not judging, I am judging them. Some people are really boring and I don't want them in my life. Or you can be in my life for a minute, but please don't bore me with the boredom of your life. And just my intolerance of that. So like literally I can only tolerate boring people and their boring mundane lives for about this much and then I'm off. But I used to hide that and I used to like so this is why it's in the unmasking thing because I used to hide that, you know, listen and because I'm a empathic person and stuff. People used to give me a lot of their stuff or because I was like a people pleaser behind a mask. Yes, yes, I just sit there and listen and listen and listen and listen and now I don't. Now I've unmasked. I'll be polite. I'll be polite as enough as I can and then I'm like, no, I'm done. Bye, I'm off. I definitely used to mask my messiness. I'm a messy person. I've got it more under control now. I'm a bit older. I'm a bit more organized chaos, but I used to be very messy when I was younger, and I still don't do the washing up for days. Like I can only do washing up once or twice a week. So, sometimes like the mess builds up, and then I deal with it. But yeah, being a messy person, as you can see behind me, I like a lot of stuff. I just like it. I'm a maximalist. I'm not a minimalist for sure. My special interest kind of links a bit to that. I used to kind of hide my special interest, I think, or not indulge them because masking. Now I do. My boundaries, I mean, this is again kind of linked to trauma and different things, but I used to kind of, I think, have boundaries, but not be able to communicate them well. But once I've learned about all that, that was definitely part of my masking is my boundaries and things. And my abilities, I'm pretty good at a lot of things. I try. I used to try and kind of hide that. Again, I suppose kind of link it to the whole school and thing and that you're not supposed to be good at stuff. Like some things I'm not great at, but a lot of things I'm all right, pretty good. And I used to hide that, and I don't know. And my sensitivities, like I said right at the very beginning, I'm sentimental. I am, but mushy in the middle. I'm sensitive to lots of things, whether that like be certain foods and smelly things, and yeah, I'm just a hypersensitive person. Actually, I think I was diagnosed with that. Hypersensitivity, but physically as well, like physically as well as like emotionally. I'm a lot less emotionally sensitive as I used to be, but I am like I'm one of those people, like itching and smelly things and all that. I don't like it. Right? Like it's there. Hyper sensitive to that sort of sensory stuff. But I used to hide it. I used to just kind of tolerate, walk someone's house and it's all like smelling with air freshener. Disgusting. Or someone's really strong perfume. I used to hide it. Now I would just not go in there or walk away. And that's been part of unmasking. Right, that's my list. That's probably really long, isn't it? God, how self-indulgence is that? But no, I'm hoping it might be helpful. And like I say, there might be like other ways that you'll have to find for yourself. But just want to show you like how in-depth this unmasking thing can be. I'll go through what I identified as the pros and cons. I'll start with the cons because we'll finish on a high. When I was unmasking, it made me way more vulnerable at first, right? Obviously, I had to go through a process of doing all this for myself, getting aware that I didn't know myself very well, or I wasn't very emotionally intelligent. I wasn't very good at communicating. I did have a lot of pain and things I was hiding. I did have a lot of trauma. I was very vulnerable at first. So definitely, I went through a good phase of vulnerability and just getting comfortable with my vulnerability and figuring out my boundaries of sharing about vulnerability. and all of that. So if you are going to go on a process of unmasking, you're definitely going to feel more vulnerable. It's just going to be, it's just part of it. Because like I say, you're literally taking away your defenses. So, it's like, I don't know, if you're taking a plaster off a wound, it's a bit sensitive, isn't it, at first? It's going to be it's a bit more vulnerable to, whatever, touch infections, all that stuff. So we've just got it. That was a metaphor, by the way, there. You're not going to get an infection by unmasking. Less friends, being rejected way more. There's a lot in with that. When you unmask, people are who you have been connected with in the past they're used to relating to the mask, right? So you make a lot of friends based on pretense, based on who you not truly are. So I just found when I was more myself, you figure out who your real friends are. Well, not even real friends, I shouldn't say that, but just more aligned friends. A lot of people fell away. Like I say, my own tolerance for people that I wasn't really vibing with, aligned with, just kind of gone out the window. So I don't put up with people that I don't want to. Part of masking. So you have less people around, you have less friends for sure. But then the other side of that is linked with a vulnerability. So when you're unmasking and then people reject you, mask, they reject you, it can bring up more vulnerable. And I was rejected a lot more often because I wasn't people pleasing, I wasn't shape shifting. And also then the other side that really pisses people off, like I've been targeted and attacked a lot. The more authentic I am, the more for some reason that comes around. I have to process it every time. It's not easy being a human and having someone just having a go at you just because you're being yourself and they hate you for no reason. That's not easy. I'm not going to pretend it is. You get used to it. That's all I can say. You do get used to it. You get like a thicker skin, more because you love yourself more, which I'll go in the benefits, but because you're like, well, you don't like me, but I do, and I've got to live with me all the time, so I really don't care what you think. And you get more power, which again I'll go through in the benefits, but you just kind of care less or get used to dealing with it after a while. But it is one of the downsides when masking is being targeted. And the other side is because you're misunderstood and just disliked. Like I say, it's like a weird dynamic. Maybe again that was just me. Maybe it's your authentic self. You probably wouldn't have made the mask, you see, if you didn't have these similar limitations, I'm guessing. We just have to get comfortable being misunderstood and being disliked. It's all part of the like rejection thing of unmasking. At first, kind of linked with this vulnerability thing, there was like a loss of identity, like who am I? And a lot of confusion in myself. Like to work through. And that's why I found like the shadow work and life design really helpful. Just being a bit more considered and strategic with that was just a really game changer for me. So all of that we can support with at Love School or on the channel here. And there is a lot of big emotions often than there was for me to process. So building your emotional intelligence kind of probably comes along with unmasking, because the reason you mask is probably to hide a lot of your deeper feelings or responses and that sort of thing. So just learning how to feel them and process them and express them better is probably part of unmasking. Actually dealing with the nitty-gritty of life. So once you see all this stuff and you unmask, kind of already kind of talked about it a little bit, it's then addressing all the problems, addressing what was going on underneath shadow work, looking at your unhealthy patterns, looking at why you were people pleasing, what you were compromising, and the effects of that, like being able to walk away from people or situations that aren't aligned with you, making those difficult choices. And with all of that, there is a lot to organize and there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot of decisions to make, and none of that's all easy. Sometimes it can be a lot to learn, like in coming to terms with your own inadequacies at times. Like for me, like I remember, just learning about feelings and needs with like MBC and stuff. And the person who supported me at the time, I was just crying. I was like a little baby. I was like, I'm like baby. I was like, I don't know this stuff. How can I be like in my 30s and not know this stuff? And she was very lovely and supportive. And she was like, well, you didn't get taught it, or you misunderstood it when you were younger, blah blah blah. But it's true, like sometimes it goes with that vulnerability. You just sometimes feel really inadequate, realizing that there's so much to learn. But we can learn. We're humans, we've got amazing brains, we can learn the skills, we can practice, we get better, and then the better you get, the easier it gets. And then you're left with the advantages. They're the main disadvantages. That was all. It's a work, right? It's a bit of work. It's a bit of adjustment of kind of getting used to being yourself and being more comfortable in your vulnerabilities and facing yourself, right? That's the hardest part. And then you get all these benefits. So the benefits are, for me, I get much more rest. I was a bit of a workaholic and stuff. That was one of my addictions. And now I'm allowed myself a lot more rest. My life has a much slower pace. I have fewer commitments because I'm less people pleasing and people in my life. So I've got more time to make better choices, to think things through, to work on myself, to take care of myself, to take care of my health and well-being, all of that. And obviously that has a huge ripple effect. When you slow down and actually take care of yourself and you're not trying to please all these people and be a way that it's not suiting you, all my symptoms calmed down a lot. Like I say, just being more authentic meant that the flare-ups and the symptoms and things that I was struggling with a lot, kind of a lot less. But then also because, like I say, I wasn't as busy doing all this stuff, and I had more time to care for myself. So that kind of goes hand in hand, I think, a little bit. That was nice. I actually like it and love myself now. I like who I am very much, and I love myself. I love myself through all of it: my past self, my current self, my vulnerable self, my powerful self. You know what I mean? Like, actually, once I realized that I actually do like who I am, because especially because I'm not faking it, I'm not pretending, I'm not doing things that I don't really want to do, and I'm not lowering my integrity, and I'm not going along with things I don't want, or all that stuff that we create the mask for. I actually like the person underneath, and especially the person who went through the process of unmasking. Like, I like that. I love me. That's nice. So I feel more free. Feel more free to be myself. I feel more free to express myself and stuff. I have much less stress, much less pain, much more discernment now. So I know how to avoid those states of stress and pain. More peace, more wellness, more ease, all those nice things. Also have more confidence, courage, self-esteem. And that comes hand in hand with like being authentic, building our personal power, having more energy available to me, knowing how to manage that well. So I'm not siphoning energy with all these like attachments to people, places, and things I didn't even want to be attached to anyway. I have much more energy, have much more personal power, and I have the skills to be able to express that and hold that, and like I say, keep myself well and things. Yeah, I'm more creative. I'm more productive in a healthy way, like I say, not in a workaholic way. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not so good at. So I know how to have my flow. I know how to keep my energy well, all of that. I'm better at communicating. I'm more honest. I have better relationships. I have more intimacy in my relationships. I have better emotional processing. That means I enjoy my life more. Ta-da! Main benefit is I actually enjoy my life more and I like myself. All right, this video has kind of gone on longer than I expected, but let me know in the comments about your experience on masking. If you need any support, we have got loads of stuff, like I say, at Love School that's going to help you with this whole process. Reach out if you're not sure at first. You can email me, mail@loveschool.uk, and just ask, if there's anything I can recommend. Have a little browse through some of the courses, some of the blogs, some of the content we've got, and you might find where you're naturally drawn to work on first to unmask. It can, like I say, can be a process. Hopefully, some of you might just watch this video and go, "Oh God, no, I'm gonna let my last mask go, and it's gonna be so easy." I wish you luck with it. And yeah, I really do. Wish you all the best of luck to get to the other side, be your authentic self, and enjoy the unmasking process.